You are now listening to the Serious Growth Podcast with your host, Leo Costa Jr.
Welcome to Serious Growth Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here with Lorenzo. Lorenzo, what's your last name?
Pavia.
Pavia. Okay, so are you a good Italian? Is that what you are?
Yes, a good Italian.
Good. Yeah, I got to tell you something, man. Italy changed my life. Seriously, you know, when I was in my heyday doing seminars back in the 80s, I did a lot of traveling over to Europe, Western Europe. But one of the places in Eastern Europe, one of the places or countries I never stopped at was Italy or Portugal. And I know you're living in Portugal, and we'll talk about that. Okay. But so many people told me that they kept saying, you got to go to Italy. No one had anything bad to say about Italy. And I thought, man, well, 4 or 5 years ago, for my birthday, I decided by myself to go to Italy.
Hey.
And you know what? Everything that everybody said about Italy was exactly true. I planned on buying a house at some point in Portugal when I got, a little bit older. I wanted, because I'm Portuguese. Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned it.
Yeah. And I thought, Portugal, my wife and I have gone to Portugal. I've gone there three different times, and I was getting ready to make this move until I took the 4-day trip to Italy, and it changed my life forever to the point where I bought a villa in Italy. Wow. And it's not that far away from you, is it? About an hour?
Exactly. It's the same. It's the same country, same village, and it's incredible. You choose Italy instead of Portugal.
I did. I felt kind of bad about that. Like I betrayed my heritage. You know what I mean? It was crazy. But what a great, I tell you what, the country, the people, I keep saying it, the people there live life with a gusto. They really do seem like they really enjoy their life, the way they interact with each other, the food, the culture.
You know, Leo, one of the reasons why I'm now living in Portugal is exactly for that. The quality of life, which is the air that you breathe in, the food that you feed in yourself is such a great lifestyle,
Yeah.
That's people over here, they live in until like 100 years and over.
Yeah. Now you told me, well, you lived a little bit. First of all, the reason and how I ended up meeting you was that you responded to one of my videos or posts that I did, and you said some very nice things, and I want to meet people like that who are willing to go out and share their feelings towards me. It's humbling to me, and I wanted to get to know you and other people like you that are doing that, because it's I've been in an industry that I have loved for 40 years, and I still love it. And I want to keep connecting with the people, because you're much younger than I am, but I want to keep connecting with people like yourself, because obviously you're younger, you have different ideas, you're in the industry of being, if I have this right, you're a coach and you're also a personal trainer. Is that correct, as far as your background?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's part of my background. Yeah.
So how did you get,
it's really related to my story, because I used to be a pro athlete when I was 18. And at 20 years old, I stopped my career. My family, my friends, they were wondering why you stopped playing football. And I saw myself going down and down and down. And I said to myself, it's time now to take my life in my hands, And so at 20 years old, I was in the UK. And it's there where basically I got the certification as a personal trainer. Back then, I was working and in the middle of my shift, because I used to do double shift most of the days, I used to train at a CrossFit gym. And the instructor was like, you got too much energy. You got to do something related with fitness about your life, because you got too much energy, And so I've decided to get the certification done. And basically fitness makes up my life, and I'm still learning and failing nowadays, but that's part of the game, isn't it, Leo?
Oh, it definitely is. So you have to fail a lot. But let me ask you this: playing pro. Did you play pro football in England or in Italy?
No, in Italy. In
Or
Italy.
Italy. So I'm curious to know what team, because I follow ever since I bought I bought the house in Italy. There for quite some time I decided to learn and know everything about fashion, and I was very drawn and attracted to Italian fashion. So
Okay.
I've learned about that. So did you play for the actual, like the Italian team that normally they haven't qualified for the World Cup in a couple or this past year, but did you play for that higher level?
So basically, is Massa is been in second division
Uh-huh.
back in days. But yeah, the team that I used to play it was quite big. The
Okay.
stadium can fit many people, and I've got as well the excitement on be on newspaper, on be on TV as well.
Yeah.
And I mean, when I'm talking about that, I've still got a bit of goosebumps,
Right.
because it's touching me the inside, and it's really great experience to be there, to be fair. And but the reason why I stopped is just because I didn't feel back in the day to feel like a pro, like a footballer. But right now, I think because of my experience as well, I know what I want, so I can go straight there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But back then I was young. I was not really sure what to do with my life. Some craziness with your friends. You're not really focused on your goal. But mainly, I think it's great that I've got kind of like stopped playing football. I've got two different ways.
Well, you know something, I think I just did a solo podcast before you came on, and I talked about, I said, one of the things that's obvious talking to you when we're talking about football, I can see the enthusiasm, the excitement, that was something that you wanted to do no matter what. Am I right about that?
Yeah.
And yet that wasn't something that you ended up doing. See, I have the same story because I wanted to be a professional athlete. I didn't know if I wanted to be football. Our football is American football or baseball, but that's all I thought about. That's all I wanted to be, was that athlete. And at the age of 21, 20 years of age, I was burned out. I didn't know what I wanted all of a sudden anymore. It seemed like I didn't want to be that athlete anymore, which was very difficult for me to handle emotionally and physically. And I get the sense kind of that's where you are. It was a crossroad that you were at. Would that be fairly accurate? Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
So you and I had sort of the same start in that I wanted to be a pro athlete. Now, as it turns out, my kids ended up being a pro athlete. So they lived their dream, but I never fully lived my dream, I didn't think. And all I could tell myself when I was very disappointed when that happened, because a part of me wanted to be that athlete, but the other part died, if that makes any sense.
It does. It does to me.
It did. So did you, after your career in Italy, did you move to England for a reason? All right, let's take a quick break so I can tell you about our product.
Do you want a bone-crushing grip? Good, because you're gonna get one with the amazing new TRS gripper. It's a progressive grip builder with longer handles and a special ergonomic design that's like a dozen hand grippers in one. Start off easy and work your way up to quickly build your grip strength from wet noodle to pulverizing. The package includes a video from the world-famous strength coach, Dr. Russ Horine, the man who worked with Leo Costa to help bring you big beyond belief in the Bulgarian Power Burst. Dr. Horine shows you a simple and easy to follow workout plan that takes just minutes a day right from in front of your TV set if you want. So click on the link below and let's get started building you a stronger, firmer, bone-crushing grip.
Yeah, the main reason is because I felt like disappointed first with myself, because my idea is to just live with football, and I didn't. my family was wondering like what to do with my, with my job and stuff like that. And I've got nothing to lose back in the day. I was 20 years old, and I've decided to go in England and just start a new life, just.
Why did you go to England and not some other country? I'm just curious why England.
It's just because I was really, really like ignorant about speaking in English. I didn't speak in English at all. And so it was kind of challenging for me to go to a country where I just need to learn a different language. And just that is so amazing, because just nowadays it can allow me to talk with you in a different part of the world. And that connection for me is it makes me understand how good like things can, become,
It's interesting because I know, like with my wife, my current wife, she's from Holland, the Netherlands. Now, she speaks 3 different languages. I speak Portuguese, but not real fluent because I haven't spoken in years. I understand it, and I'm a little embarrassed to tell you that I don't speak it really well. It bothers me a little bit, but not enough to go actually learn it better. But so culturally, I think I know what you're talking about, because to know from some of the traveling that I did, especially over in Eastern Europe, and being with somebody who's from a different culture, it's a culture shock, isn't it?
It is. It is.
And part of the challenges is being able to understand that culture. My wife and I, in the beginning, some of the things that the way she thought and the things that she said made absolutely no sense to me.
It's exactly like that. And trust me, the first time that I was there, hopefully I had some friends like they were like actually welcome me, because they were there for a few years. But then I was by myself, I just stood with them like for a month. And then I was just by myself in England, just, so it was kind of seeing different mindset, different lifestyle. And that makes me grow as a person as well,
Definitely. Definitely.
And,
so tell me how you ended up. Okay, you go to England, you don't know how to speak English. Okay. So how did you actually survive? What kind of job did you have? How did you make that? Because that's a huge accomplishment in itself.
So it's I started like basically being behind the bar and just washing glasses, making pints, trying to speak a bit of English around people, but it was really, really tough. And people laugh about me all the time because of my weird words that were just going out of my mouth. But it's part of the process,
But you know what, Lorenzo? But you know what? Here's the way I see that. I give you a lot of credit because you were willing to have people laugh at the way you talk, and you still learned how to speak the language. There's something about your personality that doesn't give in. I would say you won't give in, and you stayed there. How long did it take you before you actually felt like you could start communicating with people sort of on their level?
So because basically I used to work in a city, and I was doing Monday to Friday, so I got Saturday and Sunday off. Basically on Saturday I was getting some English lesson at the college in Camden, and I was getting better and better. And then after like 1 year, I was able to understand and say a few things. But definitely after 2-3 years, I was able to say, just a simple speech.
Right. So how long did you live then in England?
In England for 6 years.
For 6 years. Okay.
After 2 years, I wasn't even speaking proper English, but I was teaching women how to get a good bum. I was doing class.
Okay. So then did you actually start maybe to some degree learning how to do personal training while you were in England?
Yes.
And your first clientele were women? You're a good Italian boy, aren't you?
Yes.
I've watched you guys when I was in Italy. I watched how the men worked over there. Yeah, that goes a long ways, doesn't it? Yeah.
It was such a great time. The instructor job, I still love that job. It makes me so happy, change up my day, makes people like feel happy, all them together, making a bit of fun of training. That's what it's all about, making like people like, fun, smiling. And that's the kind of trainer that I am as well with my clients. It's not just a boring session. It's tough, but it's also having a laugh, sometimes it's right.
I think it's that is a part of what makes you unique. I talk about sometimes trainers, what happens to them is they have a clipboard and they're just very, okay, I just want you to do 10 reps here. They don't have any personality. And you must have that,
it's that people buy personality, like training.
That's right. And obviously you have to help them get into some kind of shape. But let me ask you this, when you were playing football, was it mandatory that you guys lifted weights? Did you lift weights when you were doing your football, or was that something that you didn't do back then?
Basically, I used to change many sports back in the day, but the one I was actually good at, and financially as well for my family, it was football basically. And so I put all my effort on it, and my granddad support me a lot on this. It was the only one believing me that I could be a football player. And then after his death, like, I feel like kind of like everyone was like in my family, like was like kind of like pushing me to like having a secure job, and and just getting me away from my training, because you need to find a job. So they were putting me pressure on me because I was 18. So after school you need to find a job and stuff. As I said, financially, I just need to find a job. So well, I said, I take all my responsibilities to not being really great at school, to don't find, that secure job. But I think I just want to fly to the UK, and my family was like, oh no, don't go there. Please don't go there.
Yeah. Something, again, this is how your life and my life are similar, because when I decided at some point I couldn't do the dairy anymore, I couldn't do it. It was too much pain. I didn't look forward to it. I was very unhappy, probably one of the most unhappy times in my life. So when I decided to go do personal training, believe it or not, in 82, no one in my town was doing personal training. If you wanted a personal trainer back then, you had to drive to Los Angeles or you had to drive to San Francisco 3 hours to find personal training. So when I got into that, all I heard from my family and my wife at that time, because I'm on my second one, they said, why don't you go get a real job? What are you doing with personal training? What is that? How are you going to do that? You know something, Lorenzo? Here's what ran through my mind. Because I first wanted to be a pro athlete, and that dream ended. And then I ended up on the dairy. When I got that unhappy, the only way out for me, and I'm 25 years of age now, mind you, with 2 small kids, but I made a promise to myself. I said, if I ever get to do something where I felt like I did when I was playing my version of football over here, when I had that feeling, that passion, I would not question it anymore. What happened to me is I went to the gym one time because I was getting in really bad shape. And long story short is I got into lifting weights. I did a bodybuilding competition. My life changed in that moment forever to this day. I said, if I ever got that feeling, I wouldn't question it. I said, I'm going to be a personal trainer when no one was doing personal training in my area. Because
Leo, sorry, I when I've heard that in your podcast, because as you mentioned earlier, I become your fan since like 6-7 months. Before I didn't know about you. Actually, probably I've seen some videos on YouTube of you while you training, and I was like, oh, this guy is a big guy and stuff. But literally, I wasn't hearing about your podcast and stuff. And when I've heard about your podcast, is in 170 something, you were actually mentioning that there was no personal training there, and now there are so many personal training
on every corner. But when I did it, and I told myself, but I had a stated my promise. I promised myself I would hold myself accountable. And the message there is, when you do something that you have passion for, all the obstacles that are in your way will eventually go away when you have that passion. And I get the sense that you're that same, you have that same personality and that same trait. Okay. So let's go back to you. So now you are instructing in a gym, but how did you know what exercises to do?
So yeah, like as I said, I've done my certification. So I've got my instructor qualification and my level 3 personal training.
Okay.
But at the beginning, you know, when you're starting something new, is challenge, you know, because you don't know what to do, and you kind of like really insecure of what to do. And so I was always like watching the other instructors as well, like, you know, and be with them in the class and trying, you know, to take some ideas from them. But at the end of the day, what actually makes, you know, being a better instructor is just practicing, and you know, and just do a lot of classes, do a lot of practicing, even by myself, you know, because you know, instructing with your second language is not that easy, you know.
Right. Yeah.
It's not your first language. It's quite tough, you know.
Yeah. So how long did you work at that? I'm assuming that you were an instructor at a gym.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I work I'm still working in the industry because I feel like I just didn't give up. It's just a time for me that I used to work for 4 years. So from 23 years old until 27 as a personal trainer. But then, as I mentioned earlier, my life was a bit like in kind of like, you know, we are Latin, so we love stay by the beach. We love in the sunlight. We are loving the good food. We are loving things that in London they are missing a bit, you know.
Yeah.
So I was kind of living my life not really happy, you know, 100% happy,
Right.
even though I love my job and I love staying at the gym. But suddenly I just really need to say that I left the UK for love. That I need to say that.
Nothing wrong with that.
Because I just not, I cannot hide it, you know. It's just part of and so I met a girl which I used to know back in the day before as well, but I didn't know, she randomly just go back in Portugal, and she's like, come over here, life is great. So I left my job, I left my life, and I went to live in Portugal. So now I need to learn how to speak Portuguese.
Okay, so let me get this right. So you were born in Italy. You played professional soccer, football in Italy.
Yeah.
You weren't happy, so you decided to make a clean break, and you went to London, and you were there for 6 years. Yeah. And somebody in your past is living in Portugal, and now you're in Portugal. Yeah. I think there's a part of you that just really has a free spirit. I mean, it takes either you're being very crazy or guts to do what you're doing. So what are you doing? Okay, so you're in the industry as far as coaching and still personal training. Is that right? Do I have that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So now you're in Portugal. What's personal training look like over there? Or how are you making, you know, how are you surviving?
That's the things over here, because I find myself kind of like kind of stuck, you know, because I used to like training people at the gym in different way. I used to work in different way.
Mm-hmm.
And so at the moment, I don't think it's really worth working for someone here in Portugal.
So you're saying that's better to work for yourself?
Yeah.
So exactly. What exactly then are you doing in Portugal?
If you think about the minimum wage of a Portuguese person is 800 euros, and it was 650. So
800 euros. Well, tell me, does that mean like you're making 800 euros in a month?
yeah,
How can you get by on 800 euros?
yeah, it's tough, Leo. Trust me.
Yeah.
It's
So
really tough. That's why I'm saying to you, life over here is different, totally different. Like
yeah.
people here with less money than you think, you know.
yeah. So what are you doing then to get by? I think last time I talked to you, if I understood you correctly, you're building a house.
Yes.
Okay, so you're building a house. Are you building your own house? Or are you building?
Yes. Building my whole.
How the hell do you build your own house? How if you're not making that kind of money, how do you do that? Did you buy a house?
No, exactly. So with the help of my girlfriend, we are actually we are building a house from scratch.
Amazing.
So, but the thing is, I'm thinking about how can I develop my business, you know,
Yeah.
in terms of kind of being a place that I want to live, you know, in terms of quality of life.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's kind of like hard to do the things that I love to do over here in terms of PTing, you know.
Yeah. So how are you going to incorporate then your what's your plan? What's your idea, you know, for doing?
So I want training. I actually I want to really get into the point where I'm basically a bit like you, know, a fitness expert, but that becomes more experience as well. But you know, I want to be like a body physique, you know, be on a magazine. I just want to be something really strong, you know.
That so you're not talking about being like a bodybuilder as much as someone showing maybe how you can get in great shape and be physically fit and strong. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So in Portugal, do they exercise very much? Do they have gyms? What does it look like? That environment look like?
Portuguese people, they're really fans about like being active. Like, so there are lots of gym. It's just the way they work. So it's like, you know, it's a bit different than
what does that mean? It's different because we talked about at the top of the show how personal training is, you know, it's sort of developed in different ways. How is it different in Portugal based on what you were doing in England?
Is the way that you actually work, like in terms of money ways as well, in terms of hours as well.
Are people lifting weights over there pretty on a regular basis? When you go into the gym, are they actually lifting weights?
Yes, they do. The difference, because obviously there are some gyms they do more specifically to bodybuilding, right, and different gyms that do more for classes and stuff like that.
Okay, all right. So is your plan then to do like when you were in London? Is your plan to go into the gyms in Portugal and learn the language and learn how to do that again, like you did in England?
I'm still doing my courses, you know, once a week. I'm connected with a Zoom call, and we are practicing some Portuguese as well, you know. Because I want to actually build up a small gym into my house, to be fair, to get, because there is a lot of space in there. So potentially it would be great to, you know, to do some stuff online, probably something like that.
Yeah.
But you don't really need to be a owner of a gym to be a online trainer.
Right.
So that's my kind of like, because back in UK, I tried to get into the online, no? But it was kind of like at the beginning was kind of like overwhelming, you know, like so there's a lot of stuff to do and mixing like, you know, 30-40 hours at the gym. Back in the day in the UK, 40 hours at the gym I was doing. So 20 hours working for the gym and 20 hours PT.
Yeah.
So I was literally dead, on top of it, training. And so it's a lot of, it's a lot of time that you're spending with people and energy and stuff. So
Right. It takes a lot out of you, because when you're working with people, you're giving a part of yourself to them.
exactly.
And when you're doing that with several people a day, I realize that
And
I felt the same thing.
I said to myself, Leo, I'm spending a lot of energy. I'm not even saving that much money, and lifestyle was pretty still like, still sharing my flats with people, like, is kind of hard,
Yeah.
Even in London is not that it's not that cheap, it's quite expensive.
Yeah.
And so but I just missing, that kind of vibes being at the gym.
Yeah.
But let's see. My plan at the moment is actually to build up a bit of accountability on my online stuff as well.
Mm-hmm. And how do you market your online business? Are you doing it through like a platform like Facebook or something like that?
Yeah.
How do you get the word out?
So I've got my Instagram page. I've got my Instagram page at the moment. I've got Facebook. I've got many connections, but if I do things, I like to do properly, And at the moment, I'm working really hard to build up the house, because it's hard work.
Yeah.
And on top of it, I'm training as well myself. I'm trying to train twice a day as well.
Mm-hmm.
It depends how I feel, but once a day I train every time. I do my rest day as well. But my diet is I'm really passionate about doing this, and if I don't do it, I feel really bad to myself.
Yeah.
So something that I want to kind of like go all in, as you said.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're going to do something like that, you have to, if you want to do it right, you have to be all in for sure.
Exactly.
Do you think that you've set up a house in Portugal? Are there any ideas in your head about going back to Italy and doing, working with people in Italy? It's your language, it's your first language. I mean, I would think that would be a much easier route to go. Not that that's the best way to go, but are there any thoughts about that? You think that you'll be living the next 5 years in Portugal?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. I think that Italy is great. Like, to be fair, it's great, Italy, but it's not really where I want to see myself in 5 years. But because how can I say, it's not the language anymore about it. It's just I don't see myself in 5 years in Italy. That's the thing.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair enough. So
Yeah.
you'll probably just develop something there in Portugal. What part of Portugal are you living in?
Alentejo, which is it's kind of like center
Yeah.
through the south. Center going through the south.
When I went to Portugal the first time, I flew into Lisbon, and I stayed in a little coastal town called Costa Caparica. Are you familiar with that?
Costa de Caparica, yeah.
That's in the central part of Portugal, isn't it?
Have you been in Cascais?
No, I heard I should go there, but I just remember when I was there, I stayed in that Costa Caparica, and I would take a ferry to go to Lisbon when I wanted to go see Lisbon. It was my first time there. And then it was really interesting because I do speak, if I take my time, I'm able to speak Portuguese language, right? And I usually study when I go into a foreign country, I study the culture a little bit. And of course it said, this is way back when I traveled there, it said that Portugal was one of the friendliest people in Western Europe, right?
They are.
At the time, I was training a football player that was in Portugal. So I thought, okay, I'm going to fly there. I'll have somebody that I can go to if I need, with language or whatever. I got to tell you something, man. In that part of Portugal, my dialect, my family comes from the Azores.
Okay.
And when I was in this little town, nobody would seem like they wanted to talk to me, or they were kind of unfriendly. I I reached out to my football friend. I said, what the hell's going on? I'm going in these little restaurants and just, I felt like an outsider. And they said, well, they can tell by your dialect that you're not a mainlander. You come from the Azores and they consider you a second-class citizen. I couldn't believe it. It was really weird to be treated like that. And I was like, hey, I'm one of you and you're one of me, but it didn't seem that way.
No, it's as I said earlier, like wherever you go, they got kind of different mindsets.
Yeah. But I will say this. I went back again 2 more times, but I went to the Algarve. So I was in the
people there.
Yeah, and the place that I was staying in, Lagos, I don't know if you heard of that, Lagos.
Yeah, I heard.
In Lagos. Now, in that town, everybody understood me, and I understood them. Come to find out, most of those people came from Terceira and places that my grandparents came from. So it was really weird, though. That was my first experience with not being welcomed by my own race of people.
No, it's true. But nowadays it happens, though. I've seen really tough situation even where I'm living. Like people, like they really like kind of like living in their world.
Yeah.
Because they've always been here, and they didn't see different people. They didn't see different countries.
Right.
And it's just a fascinating sometimes, because it's still good things in somehow. I don't know how to say.
Well, but I can say this, Lorenzo. Here's what I can say. I was there for 7 days. By the time I left, they were becoming a lot more friendly to me because it was a small beach town. And when they started seeing me come around more often, they did warm up. It was just that first.
Yeah.
It's just that first experience that we had together was, but that's when I look back at stuff like that, that's part of the culture shock that I appreciate now, because something, sometimes when you come from America, like me, I came from I'm a dumb American at this point because I didn't travel that much of the rest of the world. And you think that everything revolves around America, and it doesn't. And it's, people have their own culture, and you have to respect that and appreciate that. And I learned to do that. And I got to tell you something. I would love being in Portugal. I think it's beautiful.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm telling you.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Now you're making me feel bad again. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up here a little bit, Lorenzo. So tell me, is there anything else that you want to talk about? You were going to come on today, and I'm hoping that you at least got some of what you wanted to talk about. Did you get a little bit what you want to talk about? Is there more you want to tell me?
Yes. Like, as I said, it really I felt really like to be in your shoes. Like, I don't know, when I heard your podcast, and I just want to be. And by the way, when you got into bodybuilding seriously and you were 27, I am 27 too.
Okay, there you go. Maybe we're like twin brothers that we don't know, brother from another mother, or some crazy thing like that. Listen, I really, again, I just wanted to let you know that I know that, and for the people that are going to be listening to this, you and I are planning some kind of event either in Portugal or Italy that I'm looking forward to in the springtime.
Yeah.
And it's a question that's like, that's why I'm asking you a lot of questions, because I'm excited about coming into, whether it's Italy or Portugal. I would love to do something back in Europe again, because back in the late 80s and early 90s, I was in Europe quite a bit, and I did this stuff. I did seminars. I did, posing exhibitions, and I would love with you and I to collaborate,
Absolutely.
And do something, because 40 years ago, when I got into the personal training business, my stated goal was to, from firsthand experience, pass that information on to other people so they could become a better version of themselves. And I'm still 40 years later, it's still something that I'm very excited about doing. So I hope you and I can create something that we can hopefully motivate people and help them with their health.
We will.
And, You know what I mean? I'm really interested in doing that.
We will, because we're both passionate about fitness. Fitness is kind of what represents in our life. Is what will becomes through fitness. Is through our lifestyle. Is where I don't think I would be the person that I am today without fitness. So
Right. Yeah.
So I just really need to pass that enthusiasm that I've got with fitness.
Yes.
Is that's the difficult I've got with the online, because you cannot really like touch and see
Right.
the person.
Right.
Is that a bit of barrier for me? Because I really like, as Italian, when I speak, I move my hands a lot.
Right.
You know?
Portuguese do the same thing, so I understand that. You know, and it's a different dynamic being in front of people. You know,
Exactly.
the different energy that comes off.
Exactly. So I really enjoy it. I really enjoyed being a personal trainer. And I'm suffering at the moment that I'm not doing. I need to be fair. I'm suffering.
Okay. Well, here's what I tell people when they're suffering. Embrace that and do something about it. Okay. Don't just sit there and suffer. You do something about it. We're going to do something together about this. So we'll be, for those people listening, we're going to be getting information out there on all the platforms, and hopefully you guys come see Lorenzo and I at the next event, either in Portugal or Italy.
Yes.
Okay. Anyway,
100%.
and listen, man, it was I'm really honored that you came on. It was nice meeting you. I have a friend now for life. So
Okay.
let's do this thing in a few months, okay?
Yes, we will, Leo. Big pleasure, Leo.
Right on. We'll talk to you soon.
Ciao.
Ciao. Bom dia, senhor. Ciao, tudo dia.
Ciao. Buonanotte. Ciao.
Buenas noches. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Serious Growth Podcast. For more episodes like the one you just listened to, subscribe to us on your mobile podcast app and leave us a review. If you'd like to reach out, you can find us online at seriousgrowth.com. Until next time, train smart and train hard.